Good evening, my friends. Tonight I want to share with you the most profound truth I have ever discovered. A truth so simple that many overlook it, yet so powerful that it can transform your entire life. This truth is not new. It has existed since the beginning of time, woven into the very fabric of creation itself. But like many timeless truths, it has been obscured by tradition, by orthodoxy, by those who would rather you seek answers outside yourself than discover the kingdom that lies within. I stand before you tonight not as someone who has read about these principles, but as someone who has tested them, who has proven them in my own experience, and who has witnessed their operation in the lives of countless others. What I am about to share with you is not theory. It is not speculation. It is law, as reliable as the law of gravity, as certain as the rising of the sun. The principle I speak of is this: assumption, though false if persisted in, will harden into fact. Let that statement sink into your consciousness. Your assumption, though it be entirely false to your present circumstances, if you persist in it, will crystallize into your concrete reality. This is not wishful thinking. This is not positive affirmation. This is the creative power of your own wonderful human imagination. The nature of reality. Before we go further, we must first understand what reality truly is. Most people believe that the world they see around them, the world of facts, of circumstances, of conditions, is the real world, and that their imagination is simply a faculty for daydreaming or fantasy. But I tell you, the exact opposite is true. Your imagination is the only reality. The world you see is merely the outpicturing, the projection, the materialization of what you have imagined and assumed to be true. You are not observing a world that exists independent of you. You are witnessing your own consciousness pushed out, objectified, made visible. This may sound mystical or abstract, so let me make it practical. Right now, as you sit here, you are experiencing the result of your past assumptions. The job you have or don't have, the relationships in your life, your financial situation, your health, your social standing, all of it is the faithful reproduction of your inner conversations, your habitual thoughts, your dominant assumptions about yourself and your world. You might protest, but I didn't assume this difficulty. I didn't imagine this problem. And yet, I tell you, you did. Perhaps not consciously, perhaps not deliberately, but through worry, through fear, through the acceptance of limitations, through identifying with lack, you imagined it. And imagination creates reality. The great mystics throughout history have told us that God is imagination, that God creates through imagination, that God imagined the world into being. But here is the secret they sometimes fail to emphasize. You are that God. Your imagination is the creative power of the universe itself, operating through you as you. When the Bible says that man is made in the image and likeness of God, it is not speaking of your physical form. It is speaking of your creative power, your imagination. Just as God imagined creation into existence, you are imagining your personal world into existence moment by moment, day by day. The law of assumption. Now let us examine this law more closely. I call it the law of assumption because it is based on the principle that whatever you assume to be true, whether it is true or false by the standards of the outer world, will become true in your experience. Notice I said assume, not wish or hope or try. Assumption is different. When you assume something, you take it for granted. You accept it as true. You don't question it. You don't wonder if it will happen. You simply know that it is so. Think of how you assume simple things throughout your day. When you prepare for bed at night, you assume you will wake up in the morning. You don't lie there worrying, will I wake up? What if I don't wake up? No, you simply assume it, and you drift off to sleep without a second thought. This is the quality of consciousness I want you to bring to your desires. Whatever you desire to be, do, or have, you must assume that you already are it, that you already have it, that it is already accomplished. Not that it will be accomplished, not that you hope it will be accomplished, but that it is accomplished now. But how can I assume something that contradicts my senses, you ask? How can I assume I am wealthy when my bank account says otherwise? How can I assume I am healthy when I feel pain? How can I assume I am successful when I face rejection? This is where most people fail. They let the evidence of their senses dictate their assumptions. They let the facts of the outer world determine their inner state. But I tell you, the outer world is nothing but a delayed reflection of your inner assumptions. The outer world must change to match your inner conviction, but only if you persist in your assumption long enough for it to harden into fact. Imagination is the potter. In the book of Jeremiah, we read about the potter and the clay. The prophet is instructed to go down to the potter's house, and there he receives a profound revelation. As the clay is in the potter's hand, so are you in my hand. Who is the potter? Your imagination. What is the clay? Your life, your circumstances, your world. You are constantly molding and shaping your reality through your imagination. Every moment of every day, you are at the potter's wheel. The question is, are you molding consciously or unconsciously? Most people are unconscious potters. They let their imagination run wild with fears and worries. They replay past failures. They imagine worst-case scenarios. They accept the judgments and limitations that others place upon them. And then they wonder why their clay keeps hardening into unpleasant forms. But you, from this moment forward, can become a conscious potter. You can deliberately choose what you imagine. You can select your assumptions with care. You can mold your clay into any shape you desire. How do you do this? Through a technique I have taught for many years, one that never fails when properly applied. I call it living in the end, or living from the end of the wish fulfilled. Living in the end means that you do not imagine the process of achieving your desire. You do not imagine all the steps between here and there. You do not imagine how it will happen. Instead, you imagine the end, the state that would be yours if your desire were already fulfilled. Let me give you an example. Suppose you desire a new home. Most people would imagine looking at houses, making offers, signing papers, the whole process of acquiring the home. But this is not living in the end. This is living in the middle, in the means, in the bridge of incidents. Living in the end means you imagine yourself already in the new home. You feel the texture of your new furniture. You see the view from your new window. You walk through your new rooms. You fall asleep at night, feeling yourself in your new bedroom. You assume the consciousness of already being the owner of that home. When you live in the end, you do not concern yourself with the how. The how is none of your business. Your business is only to imagine the end, to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, to persist in that assumption. The how will take care of itself. The bridge of incidents, the series of events that will lead you to your desire, will appear automatically. I have seen this principle work in the most remarkable ways. A student of mine once desired a specific sum of money, $5,000. He had no idea where it would come from. His salary wouldn't provide it. He had no investments, no rich relatives, no obvious source. But he followed the principle. Every night, he imagined having that money. He felt the relief, the security, the satisfaction of having that sum in his possession. Within a few weeks, a series of seemingly unrelated events occurred. An old friend contacted him about a business opportunity. A debt he had written off years ago was unexpectedly repaid. A contest he had forgotten he entered awarded him a prize. The total, $5,000, arriving through means he could never have predicted or planned. This is what I mean when I say the bridge of incidents will appear. You do not create the bridge. You simply assume the end, and the bridge builds itself. The Sabbath, resting in the assumption. In the Bible, we are told that God created the world in 6 days and rested on the seventh. This is not a historical account of creation. It is a psychological truth about how you create. The 6 days represent the period of mental work, the time you spend imagining, assuming, feeling your desire as fulfilled. The seventh day, the Sabbath, represents rest, the confidence that your work is done, the knowledge that your assumption will harden into fact. Most people fail to observe the Sabbath. They imagine their desire, yes, but then they worry, they doubt, they look for signs. They check their bank account daily to see if the money has arrived. They anxiously await the phone call, the letter, the change. This is not rest. This is anxiety. And anxiety is the opposite of faith. When you have truly assumed your desire, you rest. You know it is done. You may not see it yet in the outer world, but you know it is accomplished in consciousness, and that is the only place where creation occurs. The outer world must catch up to your inner conviction, but only if you remain faithful to your assumption. I have often used this metaphor. When you plant a seed in the ground, you do not dig it up every day to see if it is growing. You plant it, you water it, and you wait with confidence, knowing that the seed contains within itself all that it needs to become the full-grown plant. Your assumption is the seed. Your persistence in that assumption is the watering. And your Sabbath rest, your confidence that it is done, is the sunshine that allows it to grow. The pruning shears of revision. Now, some of you may be thinking, but what about my past? What about all the years I spent assuming the wrong things? What about all the negative experiences I've already created? This brings us to one of the most powerful techniques I can share with you, revision. Revision is the pruning shears that allow you to change the past, not the chronological past, but the psychological past, which is the only past that matters. Every night before you fall asleep, you can revise the day. If something happened during the day that you did not like, a harsh word, a disappointment, a failure, a conflict, you can replay it in your imagination as you wish it had been. You can imagine the conversation going differently. You can imagine yourself responding with grace instead of anger. You can imagine success instead of failure. Why does this work? Because the event itself has no power. The only power it has is the power you give it through your reaction, through your memory, through the meaning you assign to it. When you revise an event, you are changing your reaction to it, and therefore changing its effect on your future. I have revised countless events in my life, and I have witnessed the miraculous results. A student once told me about a bitter argument she had with her sister. The argument had created a rift between them that lasted years. I instructed her to revise the argument every night before sleep, to imagine it ending in understanding, in embrace, in love. She did this faithfully for several weeks. Then, out of the blue, her sister called. The conversation began tentatively, but soon they were talking as they hadn't talked in years. The sister apologized for her part in the argument, even though chronologically the argument had happened long ago. The revision had changed the psychological past, and the present relationship transformed as a result. This is the power of revision. You are not stuck with your past. You can prune away the unwanted branches, the negative memories, the limiting beliefs that were formed by past experiences. You can replant your psychological garden with the assumptions you choose. The feeling is the secret. Now I must emphasize something crucial. It is not enough to simply think about your desire or to visualize it mechanically. The secret lies in the feeling. When I tell you to assume your desire is fulfilled, I mean you must generate within yourself the feeling you would have if it were fulfilled. Not the feeling of wanting it, not the feeling of hoping for it, but the feeling of having it. There is a vast difference between I want to be successful and I am successful. The first is a state of lack of desire, of separation from your goal. The second is a state of fulfillment, of satisfaction, of unity with your goal. Your subconscious mind, which is the creative power within you, does not respond to words. It responds to feelings. It responds to the tone, the mood, the emotional state you are in. When you feel wealthy, even though your senses deny it, your subconscious accepts that feeling as fact and begins to create circumstances to match it. How do you generate this feeling? Through your imagination. You imagine yourself into the state you desire, and you remain there until you feel it. You might imagine congratulations from a friend. You might imagine looking at your bank statement and seeing the amount you desire. You might imagine wearing the ring of marriage or receiving the diploma or hearing the doctor say, "You're completely healthy." Whatever scene you select, it must be one that implies the fulfillment of your desire. And you must repeat this scene in your imagination until it takes on the tones of reality, until you feel it as real. Some people can generate this feeling quickly. For others, it takes practice. But I assure you, the feeling is the secret. Without the feeling, you are merely daydreaming. With the feeling, you are creating. Persistence, the bridge of time. Everything I have shared with you tonight works, but only if you persist. Assumption, though false if persisted in, will harden into fact. The word persist is key. The interval between your assumption and its materialization is like a bridge. On one side is your desire in consciousness. On the other side is your desire made visible. The bridge between them is time, and you must walk across that bridge with persistence. Many people fail because they do not persist. They assume their desire for a day or a week, and when they don't see immediate results, they abandon their assumption. They return to their old state of consciousness, to their old assumptions of lack and limitation. And so nothing changes. But I tell you, if you persist in your assumption, if you return to it again and again, especially in that drowsy state before sleep, when your conscious mind is quiet and your subconscious is most receptive, it must materialize. It is law. How long must you persist? Until it hardens into fact, until you see it in your world. There is no fixed time. For some desires, it happens quickly. For others, it takes longer. But if you persist with confidence, knowing that your assumption is the seed that must grow, it will manifest. I have persisted in assumptions for months, even years, and I have seen them bear fruit in the most perfect way, at the most perfect time. The interval of time between assumption and manifestation is actually a gift. It allows you to grow into the person who can receive what you have assumed. It allows events to arrange themselves. It allows the bridge to build itself. So do not be discouraged by time. Persist, remain faithful, continue to live in the end, and one day you will turn around and discover that what you have been assuming all along is now a tangible reality in your world. The promise versus the law. Before I close, I want to make a distinction that I believe is important. There are two aspects to this teaching, the promise and the law. The law is what I have been describing to you tonight, the principle that imagination creates reality. That assumption, if persisted in, hardens into fact. The law is available to everyone. You can use it to acquire anything you desire: wealth, health, relationships, success, recognition. The law does not judge. It simply operates based on your assumptions. But there is something beyond the law. I call it the promise. The promise is the ultimate purpose of your existence, the reason you have been given this creative power. The promise is your awakening to your true identity, your realization that you are not a separate individual struggling in a hostile world, but that you are God Himself, creating and experiencing reality through your own wonderful human imagination. All the desires you fulfill using the law are wonderful. They improve your life. They bring you joy. They allow you to express yourself more fully. But they are not the end. They are the beginning. They are the training ground. Through fulfilling your desires, you are learning to master your creative power, and eventually you will awaken to who you truly are. Some of you will use these principles only for the law, to improve your circumstances, to manifest your desires, and that is perfectly fine. Use the law freely. It is your birthright. But I hope that some of you will go further. I hope that some of you will begin to wonder about the nature of the one who imagines, about the nature of consciousness itself. And in that wondering, in that seeking, you will discover the promise that you are destined to awaken fully to your divine nature. Practical application. Now, let me give you a practical technique you can use tonight and every night hereafter to apply what you have learned. Before you go to sleep, decide what you wish to experience. Be specific. Do not wish for more money or better health or true love in vague terms. Define exactly what you want. What would your life be like if your desire were fulfilled? What would you see? What would you hear? How would you feel? Once you have defined your desire, construct a simple scene that implies its fulfillment. The scene should be short, only a few seconds long. It should be first person, meaning you see it through your own eyes, not watching yourself like a movie. And it should involve one or more of your senses. Touch is particularly powerful. For example, if you desire a new job, you might imagine shaking hands with your new employer and hearing them say, "Welcome to the team." If you desire a new home, you might imagine turning the key in the lock of your new front door. If you desire a healing, you might imagine your doctor shaking your hand and saying, "You're completely healthy." Once you have your scene, lie down in bed and relax your body completely. Close your eyes. Enter into a drowsy, sleepy state. This state, what I call the state akin to sleep, is the most creative state you can enter. In this state, your conscious mind is quiet, your critical faculties are suspended, and your subconscious is wide open to impression. In this drowsy state, begin to imagine your scene. See it, feel it, hear it. Make it as vivid and as real as you can. Repeat the scene over and over like a loop. Don't let your mind wander. Keep bringing it back to the scene. Continue until the scene takes on the feeling of reality, until you are there, in that moment, experiencing it as actual. Then fall asleep in that assumption. Let the feeling of the wish fulfilled be the last thing in your consciousness as you drift off. Your subconscious will work through the night to make it real. Do this every night. Make it a habit, a discipline. Do not miss a night. And during the day, whenever you think of your desire, return mentally to the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Do not think about how it will happen or when it will happen. Simply live in the end, assuming it is already done. If doubts arise, and they will, do not fight them. Simply return to your scene. If negative thoughts intrude, do not give them power by resisting them. Simply redirect your attention to your desired state. Remember, where your attention goes, your energy flows. Keep your attention on the end, and the end will materialize. The inner conversation. There is one more technique I must share with you, because it operates constantly, whether you are aware of it or not. I call it the inner conversation. All day long you are talking to yourself. You are having an internal dialogue about yourself, about others, about your circumstances. Most people are completely unconscious of this inner conversation, yet it is one of the most powerful creative forces in their lives. What are you saying to yourself about yourself? Are you saying, I'm not good enough? Are you saying, I can't afford that? Are you saying, I always fail? Are you saying, no one appreciates me? If so, you are assuming these things to be true, and they will become true in your experience. From this moment forward, become aware of your inner conversation. Listen to what you're saying to yourself. And when you catch yourself assuming something negative, stop. Immediately revise that inner statement to reflect what you wish to be true. Instead of, I can't afford that, say, I can afford anything I desire. Instead of, I always fail, say, I succeed in all my endeavors. Instead of, no one appreciates me, say, I am valued and appreciated everywhere I go. This is not lying to yourself. This is choosing your assumptions consciously rather than unconsciously. Remember, facts are not truth. Facts are the outward manifestation of past assumptions. Truth is what you assume to be true now, which will become your facts tomorrow. Control your inner conversations, and you control your destiny. The journey begins. My friends, I have given you the key to life itself. Everything you need to create the life you desire has been within you all along. You are not a victim of circumstance. You are not at the mercy of the world. You are the creator of your world through your own wonderful human imagination. Some of you will leave here tonight and immediately begin to apply these principles. You will test them, you will prove them, and you will experience miracles. Others will hear these words and find them interesting, but will not act upon them. You will return to your old habits of thought, your old assumptions, your old limitations, and your life will remain the same. I cannot force you to apply what I have taught you. I can only tell you that it works. Not because I believe it works, but because I have proven it works, again and again and again. I have tested this principle in my own life for decades. I have witnessed its operation in the lives of thousands of students. It is law. Tonight, you stand at a crossroads. You can continue to live as you have been living, accepting the world as it appears, reacting to circumstances, hoping that things will somehow change. Or you can take responsibility for your creative power, assume the state you desire, persist in that assumption, and watch as your world transforms to match your inner conviction. The choice is yours, but I promise you this: if you dare to assume that you are the person you want to be, if you persist in that assumption without wavering, If you live in the end of your wish fulfilled, it must become your reality. This is not a promise I make to you. This is a promise that the very structure of reality makes to you. You are not limited by your circumstances. You are not bound by your past. You are not defined by what others say about you or what the world tells you is possible. You are unlimited imagination, and imagination creates reality. Go now and create the life you desire. Assume the best about yourself and about your future. Live in the end of all your wishes fulfilled. Persist in your assumptions without wavering. And watch as the world, your world, transforms before your very eyes. Remember, assumption, though false if persisted in, will harden into fact. This is the law. This is the truth. This is the power that has been yours from the beginning. Thank you, and good night.